Morning, guys. This is Pastor Roman Nicolas reporting methodologies and approaches of community actions and involvement across disciplines. This would be our last topic in our course for community engagement. So we have 7 topics to be discussed, and we will deal with this part by part. Number one is partnership building with local groups. Community profiling, needs assessment, working with core group of leaders, leadership development, participatory action, planning, resource mobilization, social action, then evaluation. So in this topic, we're going to deal with different methods and approaches for the community actions and of course our involvement, and we'll apply social disciplines on this. Now, what is the meaning of this partnership building with local groups, and why is it important? Okay, so mahalaga yan. Let's define the meaning of partnership. Partnerships are intended for joint solving of problems. Okay, resource exchange, cooperation, coordination, and coalition building. The relationship among partners can be temporary. These are the local bodies, including government, grassroots, and non-government organization, or permanent. So, when we say partnership, okay, so we have a problem to solve, and we're going to join our force. Ang tawag natin dito is bayanihan. Let's say, for instance, the problem of COVID-19 and other things involve ang buong community. We have to partner. So this is a joint solving of problems. And sometimes we need to exchange our resources. We need to cooperate, to coordinate, talk, have communication. Okay, so this is the partnership with the government, non-government, and etc. Okay, now actually there are different types of partnership. We have networks, coordination, and collaboration. So networks, this is the relationships among partners, okay, within networks are often less formal or informal. The main purpose of most networks is to exchange information among members. Parang social media lang. Okay, nalalaman natin kung ano yung mga nangyayari. We have networking. It is most of them are mga volunteers. Okay, may mga networks na mga meron silang purpose like samahan ng mga let's say nagmo-motorbike. Okay, merong ano yan. Alam nila yung nangyayari, alam nila yung traffic, and there is a cooperation. Now, coordination, relations among members are more closely linked. Medyo mas deeper ito. Definition of specific tasks among organizations which requires resources, okay, for representation, management, fulfillment of specific tasks, beyond information sharing. So in coordination, mas like what I said, it is deeper, and they have what is called this commitment, and they have what they call this membership. No, nang sa gayon, there's a regular meeting. Okay, all right. Another type of partnership is collaboration. It is a relations among members are strong, no, and with functional, more broad-ranging areas defined for joint activities. So, network of collaborating regional support organization, like in India. So that's the example. So collaboration is more stronger, okay, and organized. So we have different types of partnership, networks, coordination, and collaboration. Now, the principles that they are following okay, or that must have in a partnership is trust, mutuality, solidarity, and accountability. So these four principles are important. Bakit ka nag-join doon? Kasi may tiwala ka sa grupong yon o sa partner na yon. Nagtitiwala ka sa leadership, you have a trust and confidence. Mutuality, it's more on having the same experience, having the same group, having the same condition, and so na-identify mo yung sarili mo. Then, of course, solidarity is important in our commitment that we are one. We have one mind, one language, and we are solid. No? Walang mapaghiwalay. And of course, there is a sense of accountability. Okay? Responsibility, accountability, one for all for one. Anong ibig sabihin yan? Ikaw ay responsible or accountable for your group, and your group is accountable to you. So, meron kang certain responsibility. So, these are the principle of partnership. Okay. Now, that's part number one. And let's go to community profiling. Okay. In community profiling, we're going to define or identify the community profile. What does it mean? It is a summary of baseline conditions and trends in the community and study area. It establishes the context for assessing potential impacts and for project decision making, developing a community profile involving identifying community issues and attitudes, locating notable features in the study area, and assessing social and economic conditions and trends in the community and region that have bearing on the project. So, why is it important? Bakit mahalaga ang community profile? So, in our case, siyempre, we are dealing with the community. We have to know them first. How will we know them? Okay, we have to look at their demographics, the labor force, the trends, summarize the findings, and so there is an inventory, and these are different, even the attitudes and the culture of the people. So there is a process on this. Okay, so what are the types of that we are looking in our data? Okay, like what I've said, the demographic characteristics, ano yun? Yung population and growth trends, age, no, distribution, okay? Then the average of the household, the size, the ethnic composition, average household income, ito yung mga profiling, a low-income population, elderly, religious or ethnic groups, and even employment rates and trends. Relevant economic characteristics, that's another one. Okay? Yung kabuhayan nila, saan sila kumukuha ng kanilang resources. Workforce. Okay? Dominant business types and major employers and conditions of structures. So this is the relevant housing characteristics. The age type and condition of structures. Vacancy rates and trends in the community and length of residency. Okay? How long na sila nakapag-stay na doon sa bahay na yun. The extent and availability of low-income housing in the affected community. The type of occupancy in the study area. So these are the data that we're looking. Okay? And what is important here is their profile, the age, their of course, economic is important, and the housing, okay, kabuhayan nila. So ito yung tinitingnan natin. We should know our community. Okay. So, all right. So let's go to number 3, needs assessment, and then after that I'll cut off. Okay. in need assessment, it's a community needs assessment, identifies the strengths and resources available in the community to meet the needs of children, youth, and families. It provides a framework for developing, identifying services and solutions, and building communities that support and nurture children and families. So, we have already dealt or studied the community profile. Parang nagliligawan lang yan na bago maligawan, kailangan kilalanin mo muna o bago mo sagutin, dapat kilala mo. Okay, so we should know our community. Now, one of the strategies in knowing our community is their needs. We have to assess their needs, no, or identify what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, okay? Ano yung ano yung mga kailangan nila? What are their problems? Ng mga kabataan, ng mga bawat pamilya at mga bata, okay? Alright, para ma-identify natin kung anong solutions, anong services that we can render, no, for building that community. Paano tayo makapag-support? Okay, this is the purpose of the need assessment. So, in community assessment or needs assessment, actually this is a tactical way of analyzing gaps, okay, in community services. It also determines the strengths and assets available in that community. Okay, makita natin din yung kanilang mga strengths. Now, the results from a community needs assessment helps you better understand what your programs has to accomplish and the steps volunteer needs to take. Okay, so need assessment. Okay. So these are the list, no, na para makita natin yung mga ano yung dapat nating i-assess sa kanila. What is a community needs assessments and other commonly asked questions? The basic steps of community need assessments, collecting data for your community need assessments, community needs assessment, developing programs, resource for community organization. So these topics will be tackled. Malaman natin kung ano yung mga kanilang needs, no, ng bawat community. Ano yung lagi nilang mga tinatanong, commonly asked questions, and okay. Okay, there are 4 types of community needs na dapat natin maintindihan. Okay. We have perceived needs, expressed needs, absolute needs, and relative needs. Hindi kasi lahat ng needs ay ating ina-address. So, what is perceived needs? It is based on what the individuals feel their needs are. Ano lang yung nararamdaman nila, ano lang yung kanilang pagkakaalam na pangailangan nila. So, in other words, ito ay mababaw. Yung expressed needs, yung laging sinasabi, defined by the number of individuals who sought help. Laging, actually, yung mga complaints, yung mga sinasabi na yun eh. No? Yung perceive, parang haka-haka lang, ito sa tingin ko, ganyan. The moment you express this, medyo meron ng clamor in the community. When we say absolute needs, ito yung needs deemed universal, including those for survival. So, na dapat na i-address, no? Whether it is natural, whether it is a, COVID, like COVID, it's a absolute needs na dapat i-address. Or else, maraming mapapahamak. Okay? And the relative needs, these needs rendered necessary based on equity. Okay? Depende sa inyo, no? Okay. Depende so it is relevant. So we have to identify what is the need of the community. Ito lang ba yung perceived needs na sa tingin mo? Sometimes hindi in-express, kadalasan. Kaya nga in our usually community research, we are using the perceived needs o kaya perception nila about certain thing. Okay, so that's it. So we have 4 community needs. Pero siyempre, ang ating laging inano rito yung absolute needs, i-address. Okay. All right. So these are the explanation of perceived needs. So relative needs, sabi natin, render necessary based on equity and depend on current circumstances and the norm. The standard may also be based on population differences and social context. Okay. Now, let's go to what is community needs assessment. Ngayon ba lang natin dinidefine. A community needs assessment identifies the strengths, okay, and resources available in the community to meet the needs of the community members. So, i-assess din natin yung, o ma-identify din natin yung ano ba yung mga resources natin. Okay, hindi lang yung mga problema. The assessment focuses on the capabilities, kakayanan of the community, including its citizens, agencies, and organizations. It provides a framework, for developing and identifying services and solutions, and building communities that support and nurture children and families. So, hindi lang siya problem, but we have to identify also the strength of our community. So, these are the next one is the outcomes of community needs. Assessment usually fall into one of three main categories. So, ito yung, when we say outcomes, ito yung ating ina-expect, na makita. Okay? Ma-identify natin. Siyempre, magkaroon ng pagbabago. In terms of three things, or these are the main categories. Policy change. Okay? This involves laws and regulations, okay, designed to guide or influence behavior. These can be both legislative or organizational. Policy changes can include raising the age limit to buy cigarettes. That's the example kung mayroong problema on health. Okay? Now, the one who made the policy usually are the policymakers, like the legislators, the Congress people, representatives of the district. We have also local government na gumagawa ng batas or policy for our city. Okay. Number 2, systems change. Okay, for systems change, pagbabago ng sistema. This involves a change that affects all aspects of the community. This includes the social norms of the organization, institution, or system, and often goes hand in hand with policy change. These changes can include prohibiting smoking in public places. So, again, it's a policy, but once na ito ay na-implement, that policy, magkakaroon ng tinatawag na change in our behavior, in our system, in our community. Okay, the third one is for environmental change. This involves physical, social, and economic factors that influence people's practices and behaviors. Physical includes structural changes like building, specific smoking-only structures. Okay? So may mga sa mga smoker, you can have your own space for smoking area. Social factors include change in attitude and behavior, like a need for more no smoking areas. Lastly, economic factors include financial incentives to encourage the desired behavior, like raising the price of cigarettes. So, hindi lang siya system na nag-change because of the policy, kasi ito ay institution, and it will become para bang global, environmental na. Sabihin, practices na. So these are the outcomes of the community needs that we are looking. Okay. Next one is, why is conducting a community need assessment important? Why is it important? Number one, community needs assessment is a key tool that can aid and volunteer program you create by conducting an assessment before you develop a program. Okay, ensure a firm grasp on community gaps. After all, your programs work to fill those gaps through resources and services. So it is a tool, key tool, no? Kasi it's really hard to implement a program to a community without assessing the community. Okay, ano yung gagawin natin? Kailangan natin kasi, actually, this is a voluntary program. Yung mga tao ay mag-involve. Secondly, the assessment plays a critical role in guiding decision making and priority setting for your program while involving community members in the process. By following this method, you'll build your program around the most vital services for your community members. So, it plays a critical role. It is like a map, no? Lagi nating binabalikan, tinitingnan, it is our guide, no? Even in our mga decision makings, etc. So, who can be involved in the community need assessments? Okay, community members, expert community leaders, and a team of stakeholders. First one is the community members, the community, who feel the direct effects of a gap in services or resources. Feeling nila, hindi nila nararamdaman ito. Okay, make sure you hear a myriad or voices and concern in your community to better serve them. So ito yung mga needs, their complaints, their wants, no, and they're looking for a service from the government. Now, another one who will be involved is the expert community leaders, like members of the school board, local government officials, human service providers, and other professionals in the field. So, yung expert, kasi alam nila yung kanilang ginagawa, no? Okay, so they have something to impart, no? Halimbawa, if it involves health issues, health problems in the community, of course, we need doctors. Okay, if it is a road, mga ganito, we need engineers. So these are the expert community leaders. A team of stakeholders, okay, including community members, to oversee and carry out the assessment and guide your program planning. So, yung pag sinabing stakeholders, bahagi na, no? Committed. Pwedeng mga membro, pwedeng mga donors, pwedeng mga... So, these are the team, no? A team of stakeholders. Okay? So, let's go to the basic steps of community need assessment. We have to define the community, decide on scope, identify the assets, make connections, collect the data. Okay? Yan, medyo maliit nga lang. So, who are the members of the community, no? The population, the place, the values, attitudes, and values. What else? All right, that's it. So, balikan natin yon, yung kailan makilala natin sila in terms of population, yung kanilang community or the place, and attitudes and values. Okay, let's go to this side on scope. Community needs are often interconnected and complicated. For instance, homelessness has many underlying causes and effects. Okay, so community needs ay syempre makikita natin na interconnected yan sa mga members, sa mga nangailangan. Ibig sabihin, naapektuhan tayo. At syempre, ito ay complicated. No? Number 2, the types of community needs you choose to address will ultimately depend on your organization's expertise and care mission. Ano ba yung gusto mo? You have to choose isa lang. No? You cannot deal with all of the problems. Okay, step by step lang. Does your organization address gaps in your community health, for instance, or in education? You may want to address homelessness and its many causes, or you may focus your resources on a smaller group that is disappropriately affected by gap in services. So decide on the scope. The the specific, the better. No, better. Okay. It can be tempting to want to assess and address on the needs in your community. But by identifying community needs based on your available better expertise and resources, and narrowing your scope accordingly, you can better concentrate your efforts on what will achieve the most impact. That's why it's important to define the intended reach or scope of your program from the outset. So, gusto mo kasi gawin lahat eh. Okay? So, that's why we need to assess the needs of our community, what is important. Your scope should largely depend on the resources available in your community. With more available resources, allowing for a wider scope. While it's helpful to set lofty goals, it's also important to know your scope and set achievable goals and seek growth as your program becomes more established. So, pag mag-goal tayo, alam niyo yung SMART should be specific, merong time-bound, merong alam mo yung mga yung resources mo, etc. Unachievable ba ito? That's it, no? Okay, so here we may identify the organization, the assets of the people, ano yung ating strengths? We have an organization, we have the people or volunteer, we have funding, we have policies. Yan. Okay, so identified na yung ating meron tayong organization, volunteers from the community members. Okay, pondo, mahalaga yan. And of course, gumagawa tayo with, of course, may mga legal or laws or policies na sinusunod tayo. Okay. Of course, in need assessment, we may make connections. Okay? Ano yun? To pull off your community needs assessment, you need to know the right people. As you learned above, some of your greatest assets are just people, from students to governors. Okay, so these are the greatest asset na meron tayo, the people. Okay. To get started, you should gather your contacts and reach out to community leaders. Okay, sa pasimula pa, we have to make connections with people, particularly the leaders. Let's say your organization is looking to develop programming for veterans. Reach out to leaders by visiting the gathering places of your community veterans. Contact the Congressional Affairs Office and get in touch with the Veterans Affairs Health Center. So, kailangan natin ng connection. That's just an example of meeting the needs of veteran people or community. These connections can help you assess needs and play a key part in helping you address them. It's important to have resources, support, and ample expertise available to you before implementing the program. Okay, after that, what is this collecting data for your community need assessment? So, kasi in need assessment, we are gathering information, the profiling, community profile, etc., and of course their needs. These are the methods: interviews, focus groups, and survey. Okay. Yun, speak to those at the ground level, experts and community leaders about what they observe and experience in the way of needs. Okay, so we may contact them, we may know their needs by interviewing, and of course, listening session in public forums, listening and participating in community gatherings like town meetings are top ways to learn about perspective on local issues. Kasi in that meeting ay malalaman mo kung ano yung talagang needs ng isang community or ng city. You may participate and listen. Direct or participatory observation. So, paano natin gagawin? You may visit the community spaces like senior centers, shelters, and school to observe. Speak with those at the ground levels and participate in programs that already exist. So, through that, we can assess the needs of our community. Okay. All right, now let's go to, let's analyze your findings. Okay, nakuha na natin yung data natin. Tingnan natin, what are the strengths of that community? Okay. Ano yung advantage? What are the existing strengths of the community? For instance, let's say you find the robust community partnership are successful with low-income youth as graduation rates, 22% over the past 5 years. This can give you a starting point for your program. So, this is a technical thing, and what is important is to know the strength of your community by assessing, okay, saan talaga malakas, no? Ano yung mga kabuhayan nila? Ano yung pinagkakakitaan nila? Ano ang ginagawa ng mga estudyante, ng mga kabataan, no? So, people are important. Gaps, where do you see lags in your findings? Ito yung mga weaknesses. Identifying gaps can help guide the creation of new programs. Okay? For instance, you may see that your youth programs tend to halt after graduation, and there is a lack of follow-up support for low-income women above school age. Perhaps your program focuses on post-graduation mentorship for women. So in gaps, no, we have to look at the you can see the lags. Ano yun? Yung mga problems ng community, ng mga kabataan. Okay. Challenges, ito yung mga threats, no? Problems. These are the common challenges that affect your community needs. For instance, you might notice the time constraints for working individuals lead to disinterest in public programming. How can your new program combat these challenges? So, ano yung mga issues and problems? No, okay. At paano natin ito madideal? And of course, the opportunities. Hindi naman lahat may problem ang nakikita. Are there any known opportunities that you can take advantage of? For instance, you may find the program directed toward low-income women in similar community experience an increase in funding last year. Maybe your program should focus on low-income women since you know that has found success before. So, pwedeng ito ay merong mag-sponsor sa livelihood, no, opportunities. People who may support, no? Okay, before we deal with working with core groups of leaders, leadership, development, participatory, let's take a break. Thank you for listening.